hated award.
Award. Most hated.
Award for most hated game of the year.
Least worst of most hated for the least worst game to win the most hated award. The nominees are Mass Effect 3.
There was a lot of hype leading up to the release of Mass Effect 3, on top of the already high expectations of its fanbase to finish off the trilogy in an amazing fashion. The hype included an over-the-top Take Earth Back trailer with its faux controversial child dies cliche, a publicity stunt which saw copies of Mass Effect 3 launched into space and back, and the exciting promise of decisions made across all three games having an impact on the outcome. The game itself was released, and while looking polished, stood upon a simplified corridor shooter RPG with an unengaging storyline.
Undertale.
One part shitty Earthbound, one part shitty Persona, one part shitty retarded fanbase. Undertale has many flaws. Several elements show the lack of work and thought put into them. The art style is inconsistent and lazy, the story is mediocre, the humor is forced, the actual combat is simple and boring, there's barely any equipment variety, and most of the characters are tired cliches. But let's not kid ourselves. We know why Undertale is so hated. It's the fans.
No Man's Sky.
I don't actually have a speech, just some notes. By this point in the show, you should be able to write a 5-page essay on why this game sucks. We think it should be important to point out some reasons why this game won for most hated. So I think we really need to point out the fact about how much Sony put out for this game. Side note, I just want to add how this formula is still efficient on most gamers despite being obviously shady. Game promises great innovations, groundbreaking mechanics, footage is shown and claims to be in-game footage, marketing overblows it, it's launched and it's completely not what was shown in any way. Another thing was that I have yet to hear of any new shipments of No Man's Sky since the launch of the game. I mean, we have so much about why this game is bad that we can literally copy and paste other award speeches about this game, and yeah, it's all there.
Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Like some strange, bizarro world, 2017's Battlefront 2 is to decay as Pandemic's Battlefront 2 is to improvement. They had their license, they had their prequel, they had their feedback, and they did nothing with it. The areas they did decide to build upon, such as the addition of a single-player campaign or more heroes in multiplayer, were hindered by low quality and a pay-to-win loot box scheme, respectively. Think back to the older titles in the Star Wars franchise. The games branched out into so many different genres, from MMOs to racing games to flight simulators. We got to play in the expanded universe as Kyle Katarn in the Jedi Knight series. Star Wars was able to apply itself across the board, and they were able to do it well. Now, however, we're going to forever be reduced to Battlefield reskins, whether you like it or not.
YIIK, a postmodern RPG.
You know, on paper, Y2K doesn't seem all that bad. A surface-level Paper Mario-inspired battle system crossed with WarioWare microgames, all wrapped around an Earthbound aesthetic, definitely has potential. Weirder genre fusions have worked before. But this isn't a game that was most hated because it was successful. Y2K's sales were at best modest, and it was mostly promoted through word of mouth and by the developers at gaming conventions. Everyone seems to have a bone to pick with these guys. And on the topic of bone, I think I'm gonna...
Undertale. Back in 2015, Undertale made a massive impact on the gaming community all across the internet. For some, the thought of this impact was far too much to bear. That year, for our 2015 VGAs show, Undertale made history by not only winning Most Hated, but also becoming a top 5 contender for least worst. Having such a game be this divisive in the show's results served to showcase just how much Undertale had torn the internet apart. As the game's initial honeymoon period began to fade, Undertale began to find a small niche on V. It was apparent that the main thing holding Undertale back at the time was it being shoved down everyone's throat. Which brings us to a modern-day reevaluation of what Undertale actually got right. The graphics may be simplistic, as is the writing. However, people fell in love with its easy-to-draw characters that anyone could understand. Plus, there's a niche theory community you can sink your teeth into if you're not satisfied with the surface-level depictions. The combat has a cute WarioWare-style minigame interaction, so the casual fan has something to do when it's not their turn, and it wouldn't be a beloved RPG without a killer soundtrack. But let's not forget why this game was the most hated. Its insistence on being baby's first RPG didn't strike a chord with more hardcore audiences. Alphys and everything related to her is still fucking awful, and attacking could have had changed mechanics to be fun on the genocide route. Fuck the message, if we're gonna kill everyone, at least let us have fun doing it. Still, Undertale managed to carve out a loyal fanbase that sticks to it through thick and thin. Congratulations, Undertale, for being the lone corn kernel on top of the pile of shit.